Hello there. Welcome to A Certain Point of View. Sorry, we're running a little late tonight, but we are here. And tonight we do have Jessica.
Hi.
How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. And we also have joining us for the first time in quite a while, Josh Mesker. What's up, dude?
Oh,
God.
Hey. Hey, how's it going?
That sounded so gross.
How's it going? Hey, sorry.
Stop.
So, yeah, I was drinking something for those who would, I was just drinking something. Hey, the countdown, the countdown music and like the beat.
Yeah.
All I could think of, I was like going like this. All I could think of was like that cat that just kind of, the cat videos. Anyway, keep going.
I'm sorry, I don't know what you're
Drew knows.
Who's Drew? Oh, here we go. Joining us tonight is actually a returning guest. It is not the Drew you are used to, but it is a Drew nonetheless. Drew Tavares, what's up, man?
What's up?
Good to have you back. Drew actually came on for our Star Wars Visions podcast, and that's actually one of our most listened to episodes, by the way. I don't think I ever told you that. So that was a fun one.
I may be biased, but it might be because I was on the podcast.
Possibly. There's a good chance. Well, Drew, thanks for joining us, man. How are you?
Yeah, man. I'm doing well. I'm glad to be back again.
Yeah, we're glad to have you. Glad to have you to talk about the Book of Boba Fett finale and kind of just the series as a whole. I'm excited to get into that tonight. And I'm going to bring up the oh my gosh, Jack, I see your name, dude. What's up, man? We have been trying to get the whole thing to not say Facebook user for the last few weeks, but turns out it is something that y'all have to do. So if anyone is in here and you're on Facebook, I'm gonna actually repost. I posted something on the Facebook thing. I'll figure it out later. I can't do this and talk at the same time. Jack, why don't you do it? You repost it for me because you love me. But dude, good to have you in there. Whoever else is in the chat, say what's up. Let us know that you're here. What we're gonna do chat wise is we'll definitely get to it some here at the beginning, but once the conversation about the Book of Boba Fett starts, we're gonna hold off on chat stuff until the very end. So make sure you do leave your comments if you have real thoughts about the episode and the series as a whole. But we do want you to get through the conversation and not have this be a 3-hour conversation, which last week was about 2.5. So we're trying to cut down on time as much as we can, but we also want to involve the chat. So we will get to y'all at the end. Jack, you say, do I though? And I think you do. I think you do love me. So, hey, let's just kind of get a couple of things going before we get into specifics about the episode. Josh, you have not been on the show since the Book of Boba Fett started. I would love to get your thoughts on what you think. You have a unique perspective because you actually binged most of the show instead of waited week to week. So how was that for you? How are you feeling about it?
It was good. So I watched the first episode and was okay on it. I thought it was, pretty good, but I just wasn't like overjoyed or anything like that. But it was good. I thought it was a good start. And then I just got really busy, which is my life, and got really behind. And so like last Sunday, was it? I ended up watching like 4 episodes in one day just to catch up. And that was really, really cool because I was able to kind of, watch all those episodes really close to each other and see, connecting points that they were trying to make, especially with his, character development and how they were kind of bringing him from really what I would say more of a one-dimensional character for the most part, to really just trying to like flesh him out and give him a, more of an identity. And so I was able to see that, and recognize it. And yes, I do have execution issues with the show kind of here and there throughout, that do bother me. But I will say that being able to watch all those and then, watch the new one that week and then the finale, really did give me an appreciation for it. I definitely don't think the series is perfect. I would say far from it, but it has a few episodes that are very good, if not great. And, I was able to find enough to like and appreciate about all the others that I didn't think that any episode was like categorically bad, right?
Yeah.
Like there may be one that I thought was kind of on the cusp, but I couldn't quite say it was bad,
Right.
And so I really enjoyed it. I think it's a pretty cool miniseries. I like how it connects into the Mandalorian too. I think it's kind of only fair actually when you think about it. It's like Boba Fett showed up in the Mandalorian, then the Mandalorian showed up in Boba Fett.
Yeah.
It makes sense to me. So I had a good experience with it.
Well, good, man. Yeah, I'm glad. I am finding that is a pretty common thing that I'm hearing. I know a few people who have binged it rather than waited week to week.
Yep.
And generally the response is similar to yours. It works. Apparently this does seem to work as a binging show. But a lot of people I know week to week have struggled a bit with it. So it's kind of interesting in that way. But Drew, what have you thought generally on the show so far?
Yeah. So yeah, I'd say I agree with Josh a lot. I enjoyed the show for the most part. And there are some things that I disliked that I'm sure we'll get to later on. But yeah, I think part of it had to do with I wasn't a big fan of it being a week to week thing. I think it's because it's a mini series. Technically, it only has 7 episodes, and I feel like it would have flowed a lot better if it would have been released all on the same day, in my opinion. Um, so I don't know. Yeah, like overall, I had a good time with it, but there are a few issues that I have.
Yeah, and that's always the interesting thing, right? It's like I think that this show is a good example of a show that could possibly work better as a binging show, but at the same time, I also think Disney's smart business wise to not do that. I think it's if you can stay in the conversation for a couple of months instead of a couple of weeks, that's the smart thing to do. And it just kind of sucks for us whenever a show would probably work better as a binging show. But yeah, it's all good. I actually have a lot of strange thoughts on this series. It's been quite a ride for me. I've been up and down more than I thought possible, really. I was down at first, then up the next week, and then for a couple of weeks I was kind of down. Really enjoyed the Mando centric episodes, but at the same time it was kind of like bizarre and odd. And then the finale, we'll get to it, but yeah, it was just kind of this weird ride where I like what's being told, but I also am like, this was just a really uneven. I think that's probably the best word for this show, uneven ride. And but yeah, we'll get into more of my thoughts on the finale. I'm actually more positive on the finale than I was afraid that I would be. So I think we're gonna have fun talking about it. But Jess, just to kind of recap what you're thinking on the show, what are your thoughts to the show to this point?
I mean, I've enjoyed it. I didn't like love it as much as I wanted to. But it was really enjoyable, and I don't know, like it's kind of like how you said, it feels a little uneven. I feel like I don't know. I saw something I think on Twitter about how people are saying they wish this was a movie or something like that, and I think that could have maybe been a better pace for it if it had been kind of condensed, but I don't know. I did enjoy it. I thought it was good Star Wars. I'm glad they did it. I think I just would have maybe, I don't want to say like styled it differently, but like just I don't know. I would have edited it differently. Like
I think it's more writing personally,
Yeah.
to be honest, but it's not even like the writing is all that bad, but it does seem like
it's
well,
choppy a little bit. I think.
honestly, it might, yeah, it's choppy, but honestly, a lot of it might just be like they're telling a Star Wars story, but we were marketed a Boba Fett story.
Yeah.
And so to me, that might be more the issue is just marketing. And like, because as a Star Wars story, I thought this was good. Like once I
Yeah.
readjusted my point of view, once I readjusted how I was watching it and kind of just saw, okay, they're telling a story with all of these characters in this corner of the universe, I enjoyed the show more. But I was also like, why is this called the Book of Boba Fett? It's not really a great title when you're most people that watch the show are not going to do what I did and adjust my lens, right? Most people are not going to do that. We always forget too, the vast majority of people who watch these shows are not sweaty nerds like us, like following all the Star Wars things. And the vast majority of them are just like, yeah, I like the movies. And oh, Star Wars show's on. What's this? Book of Boba Fett. That's the vast majority, and we forget that a lot, and that's who they have to market to. And so and even for someone like me who is willing to change, it was hard for me to do that, you know. And so I think they got to do a better job of that in going forward. Josh, what do you think about like those thoughts there?
Well, first of all, a Boba Fett movie was something that I was on board with for a long time, and that just as number one, and there was going to be one.
It was supposed to happen. It was canceled.
And then that got canceled because of all the shakeup with the Star Wars story anthology movies, and then kind of making some decisions on those that I still don't agree with. But we don't have to get to that.
One movie flops because of a terrible marketing strategy,
right? And then you just drop
all others.
Right.
I loved the Star Wars story.
We did too, but
I love that.
But they released it 6 months after The Last Jedi instead of a year, and then after that they stopped doing it because Solo didn't work.
Well,
it worked. I loved it.
But when they released it was a really poor time to release it too. So.
Maybe it'll come back.
But so you know, I thought Boba Fett, a Star Wars story, would have been awesome. They had a great director attached to it, James Mangold, who has directed some great westerns. So that would have been a perfect. Like he directed the remake of 310 to Yuma. Logan. If you've ever seen that, which is so good, and he directed
310 to Yuma is great.
Yeah, 310 to Yuma is awesome. Oh my gosh, that would have been amazing.
He would have been perfect for Boba Fett and that whole story. But you know, I see, you know, Disney was able to pivot. We're getting live action Star Wars, and it's something I've always wanted, like a live action Star Wars TV series. Right. And so we got that with The Mandalorian and, you know, 2 great seasons of that. Then this was announced. And I really think ultimately I agree that it's a pacing issue. And what I think would have benefited the series, actually, believe it or not, would be if there would have been actually 1 or 2 more episodes. Frankly, I think that because I have no problem with them kind of going off and seeing what Mando is up to. Like none whatsoever, especially since they tied him back into the show's plot. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So, absolutely.
Like I would have had an issue with it if it was just like made 0 sense as to why he was showing up. But him showing up accomplished 2 things. One, we got to see what he was up to, basically catch up with Mando. And then he ended up involved, right, in like the main plot of the Book of Boba Fett. And so I had no issue with that. What I would say is after the because there were 7 episodes.
Yeah.
Right. So I would say like after the 6th episode, there should have probably at least been 1 more before the finale, where it could have been kind of another character driven one that was a little bit of a slower burn where, Mando and Boba Fett are catching up more. Boba Fett's getting to know the townspeople more. It's kind of building up that connection that he has to it, where he's, taken on the role of protector, and all those things. And then you have kind of like the big finale and the blowout.
Even some more build up with Boba and Cad Bane too, some more build up there.
Yeah, and so I would say that it's one of two things: either the series wasn't long enough, or earlier on in the series they maybe didn't use the time that was there effectively. Yeah. But I think I fall on the side of more, hey, it probably would have been better to have one or two more episodes there. Definitely. And I think that would have actually paced it out a bit, a bit more.
Actually agree with that. Yeah.
That's my view.
I agree with that. Drew, what about you? Anything that we've just hit on that you agree or disagree with on that?
Yeah, I definitely feel like the pacing of the series was a big issue for me. I do think that it probably would have been a lot stronger if it had about 2 or 3 more episodes, especially if those episodes focused mostly on Boba. Because that's one of my issues with the show, is that I felt like as soon as Mando was introduced, it kind of overshadowed Boba's story. And also, I think that there was too much focus on the the flashbacks, and it didn't move the plot as forward as I was hoping. Especially with the Tusken Raider stuff, I thought that was great. I loved episode 2. That was one of my favorite episodes.
Oh my gosh, yes.
It's really good.
And obviously, that's where we kind of learn where Boba kind of has this more respectful outlook on people. But I don't think they really touched on that enough. And it was honestly a true tragedy that they killed the Tusken Raiders so early on. I feel like they could have really utilized them throughout the rest of the series.
Yeah, I agree. I don't necessarily have a problem story-wise with them killing off the Tuskens, even though it broke my heart. And I think that was that was one of the purposes. But I think if you had an extra episode or two, you could have spent more time with Boba kind of dealing with that and dealing with the loss of his Tusken family, and which I think could have been even more powerful. And then the way I think it could have meant even more in this episode when he killed Cad Bane with the weapon of the Tuskens, that could have added even a little more, even though I actually saw what they were going for there in this episode and it was cool. I think it could have even been more effective if they spent more time on that particular thing, because it did feel like after that one episode they didn't even mention the death of the Tuskens. Well, yeah, they did in that episode where he was talking to Fennec.
Well, and then he enacted revenge on that biker gang that he thought was responsible.
Yeah, very true.
And so what I would say is, on one hand I 100% agree they should have and could have and should have leaned into that more. One thing that I at least appreciated in the finale, while we're kind of on the whole Tusken conversation, is I actually thought the twist in that bomb that Cad Bane dropped on Boba about how basically Boba has blood on his hands, that he killed this biker gang that the Pike Syndicate framed for it.
Yeah.
And so Boba murdered those people. And so I think that that's meaningful for him, because he's trying to be something different than what he was, because you've got the pre-Sarlacc Boba Fett, and then you have what emerged from the pit. And I think there's intentional symbolism with that, by the way.
That's a good point.
And so And so I like that they kind of brought that back in with the finale and Cad Bane taunting him with that, and then Boba killing him with the gaffy stick. I think that's all really great.
Yeah.
And so at least they brought it back around. But I agree that that leaning into that a bit more and fleshing it out and making us really feel that, they could have added some layers there.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and I think I want to ask y'all this. This is just a little fun off the top of my head question. Jessica, I'm sorry to get you to do this. I know you're gonna hate it right away. What just really quick before we move on into the finale, what has been y'all's favorite episode of the series so far? Anybody? Whoever has it first.
It's gonna be, I mean, the thing is, and this is the problem that a lot of people have, my favorite episode of the series is episode 5.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and Boba Fett's not even in it. And so, so again, like on one hand, I have no problem with going out on, catch up with Mando time.
Yeah.
But episode 5 was so well directed, written, executed. The action was there. The emotions were there. The character work was there. I mean, that episode is quickly becoming just one of my favorite, like in isolation, one of my favorite Star Wars things, of recent years. And so when you have an episode like that, that's just so good, and Boba Fett doesn't even have it, and it's called the Book of, Boba Fett. Like, it does kind of make you go, huh? Yep.
I know it's weird.
It does, and so I'm working on that, and so it's just like there's weird tension there.
Yeah, and I actually like when that episode came out, I actually was totally on the whole, like, I was like, how, when you're reading a book and you go to a chapter and you go away from the main character for a chapter, it's going to come back. And I was like totally like sold on that. And then the next week they still didn't really go back to him. And I was like, guys, I was just defending y'all. Like, come on, help me out here. And so I think
they did at the very end of the,
yeah, but he didn't even say a word. You just saw his face. So
I hate to say it, but I'd rather them almost test the style of storytelling on this show and not like one of the other shows.
Wait, what do you mean?
Like maybe they just tried to do something different, and so they just decided
so instead of testing it on your beloved Ahsoka, test it on Boba Fett. Okay,
yes.
I see what you're saying.
Right.
Absolutely.
Do not test this on Obi-Wan, please.
Yeah.
For real,
honestly,
man.
That's the only one that I would be really upset.
They go off.
Yeah.
They do a 2-episode arc on Quadranero in the Obi-Wan show.
Yeah. He makes that's just whenever you say Ben Quadranero, I'm just like, it's power coupling, and
not the Ben you were looking for.
Yeah.
I'm looking for Ben Solo, man.
Oh yeah, it's that meme where says that they're related, Ben Quadranero.
So ridiculous. Hey, really quick, wait before we move on, Drew, what was your favorite episode of the series? Season. Series, who knows?
We'll find out soon, hopefully. Definitely episode 5. I mean, the quality in filmmaking was above and beyond anything in the entire series, and I'd even say that it's better than a lot of The Mandalorian as well.
That was my favorite. It might have been my favorite Mandalorian episode.
Honestly, yeah, like that's what I've been telling people. I've watched it 3 times now. I love it. I can't get enough of it. It had amazing locations.
Yes.
The whole tone of the episode was great. The action was fantastic. The camera work, just so good. The
Mandalore stuff.
Yeah, like all of the Mandalorian backstory and everything. Oh man, just I loved it.
Yeah, man.
honestly, give.
I thought I was
Bryce
watching a
Howard
Star
a
Wars
series.
movie, honestly.
Yeah, exactly.
She did
That's
such a
the
great job.
quality that I felt from it. Is like it felt like movie level quality, which is what I've been kind of wanting from these series.
Yeah.
Because like, Disney has the resources to do that.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like these are expensive shows, and I know Disney is. What's interesting is Disney is not as rich as companies like Apple or like Amazon. Those companies literally can throw however money they want to at their stuff, which is why it's so high quality. But Disney has plenty of money to make these things look. There was a couple episodes of this series that had no business looking like they did.
Mhm.
I'm mainly thinking episode 3. Yeah, that episode had no business looking as bad as it did on multiple occasions. Dude, I agree. I think, and Jess, we'll go to you in just a second. For me, I think I am torn because of exactly what we've been talking about. I feel weird about choosing an episode that didn't actually involve Boba, but episode 5 was the only one that gave me pure Star Wars bliss. But I will say, episode 2 is extremely close behind. Like that episode was actually basically perfect for me.
I agree.
That episode added a lot to Boba's character. I mean, nose lizard, come on, the drug lizard. I mean, that was that was awesome.
Yes. Yeah.
That whole sequence with the tree, and the gaffy stick and the train heist and the just all of it. That entire episode was just so good. And I wish Steph Green, I wish she would have gotten another episode of the show, and maybe old Rob Rod would have gotten one or two less. But that's another discussion for another time. Jess, what was your favorite?
I'm gonna say episode 2 because I want it to be like the Boba Fett one.
Yeah, I figured that's what
I hate to say that the others aren't because it is the show, but to me,
but the book, Jessica. No,
but I love the other two as well, but with mostly Boba Fett in it in episode 2 for sure.
Yeah, it's such a good episode. I'm actually going to rewatch the show soon just to kind of get all of it in one quicker take, and I'm really excited to get to that episode.
I want to actually go through a rewatch of the first 2 seasons of The Mandalorian and then watch this again and just
totally.
Because I think
you have to watch Clone Wars and Rebels before you rewatch it, I think.
You're gonna out Josh again.
Yeah.
Josh, we've outed you so many times on this show.
I know you have.
I don't even feel bad about it. If they will give you pressure
please bully
to get on this, I don't care. I will shout it to the rooftop.
From the mountaintop.
Yeah.
It's Arkansas. We don't have mountaintops.
So
hey, chat, let Josh know he needs to watch the Clone Wars, please.
And Rebels.
But the Clone Wars first.
About a year or 2 ago, I tried to get my oldest son interested. So then it's something we could watch together and everything like that. And at that time, he just was not really interested in episodic stuff. And so he's a little bit older now, and he's starting to watch, some things and be more interested in how the story is being told. And, it's just as some, and I have 4 kids, everyone, by the way. I have 4 kids. And so, and this is just the nature of it. It's getting time truly alone is difficult. And so, you try to engage your kids,
dude,
when you can. So
I get dude, the Clone Wars is it's a lot. To try to get, especially you're trying to get a minute to yourself. You're trying to get some time to yourself to watch it. There's a lot to get through, dude. It's a commitment. And so
it's at least a good binger.
Yeah.
It's a great binger, but it's also a lot.
It's a couple of chunks of time, you can knock a lot of it out.
Yeah.
I thought about doing first, doing the I know we're on a kind of a rabbit trail here, but I know that there's a recommended here are the essential Clone Wars arcs that you need to watch kind of thing.
You could do that, dude.
I really thought about doing that first and just like getting the main connecting arcs out of the way and
then going back
and then going
maybe
back,
watching it.
you know, because that
And
would be
watching the
more.
droid episodes. Dude, there's a couple of arcs you're gonna have a hard time with. I'm just telling
The
you.
Jar
right
Jar
now.
Binks
episodes.
is his
The Jar
favorite.
Jar, dude, the Jar Jar. There's actually a couple of Jar Jar episodes I really enjoy, but there's a couple at the end that are like really weird.
Yeah. I
Y'all know
still
what I'm
love
talking
the
about.
show, like
He
every
has
episode.
a
But
love
like,
What'd you say, Drew?
Oh, I was saying like I still love the show, like despite those episodes.
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
even those episodes, like yeah, they're weird and like kind of silly sometimes, but I still love it.
Yeah,
And
and
I was actually gonna bring something up earlier, but I forgot about it. I think the Book of Boba Fett would work so much better if it had a different title. Like, because
it
I
would.
was like
Yep.
thinking about like the Clone Wars, how there's all these different arcs with different characters, and it seems like they're kind of doing the same thing with some of these live action shows.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the problem with the Book of Boba Fett is that with the title being the Book of Boba Fett, it you thought that it was going to be about Boba Fett. And so when they took that departure and like brought in Mando,
Mm-hmm.
it was kind of jarring. And I think that if the show would have been titled differently, it probably would have worked a little better.
I totally agree. Like, picture the Clone Wars, but they were called the Ahsoka Tales. Like the whole, like the Clone Wars are. Ahsoka is essentially the lead character of the Clone Wars, right? She's at least one of the main ones, and every character kind of goes through Ahsoka at some point, right? I feel like all of our main characters do, and she goes everywhere and fights these battles and meets a lot of people. I feel like Ahsoka Tales, like if that is the equivalent of the Book of Boba Fett, but they called it the Clone Wars because they were smart. Like, they should not have called it the Ahsoka Tales.
Boba and Friends.
Boba and Friends. The Adventures of Boba and Friends.
The real Boba Fett were the friends we made along the way.
Book of Boba Fett and Friends.
As bad as that title is, it works better practically than the Book of Boba Fett does. So I think that, Drew, I think you're absolutely right. I think that this episode was just not, I mean, this series was not named what it should have been named. It should have been, I don't even know what it should have been, but it should have been something to reflect what it actually was. And it was a Star Wars story set in this kind of corner that they're working on. They're building toward this, crossover kind of a thing. And it should have reflected that. And I think that's just kind of no brainer, but I don't know.
I mean, in fairness, it's still like 80% Boba Fett. It's like, it's more like 70%.
Is it
I
though?
guess.
Yeah, I was going to say mathematically.
No.
Is that?
It's there are 2 episodes that don't really feature him, and
I
there are 5 episodes that do. So it's kind of.
I wouldn't complain about it as much if the ones with Boba in them were just as solid as the ones that were more centered on Mando.
That's the thing.
Mm-hmm. The quality of those 2 episodes was like, let's give so much love to these. But then again, Steph Green's episode was so good.
Yeah, and had all of them been to the level of episode 2, no one would be.
Yeah, absolutely. But the problem is Robert Rodriguez directed 2 of the first 3 episodes, and the quality of his episodes just wasn't there. Like, as far as like the quality of how he works with the technology and camera work and action, all of it was really lacking in those 2 episodes. And so, yeah,
but then he saved all like the cool stuff for the finale.
Because I thought there was some good stuff.
It felt like a different director, almost like, So I don't know. I don't know how to square all that. Personally.
Yeah,
I've kind of said this before, and I don't know if this has anything to do with it, but like if he was filming during the pandemic and they didn't have like as big of a crew for his episodes or something, like I just wonder if some of that plays into it, because I'm interested to see like if someone has like the filming schedule or something, because it'd be interesting to see who filmed at what point.
Dave
Wasn't it
Filoni, I know
Drew-
you're in the chat. Can you let us know?
Drew, was it Gabe who mentioned that on some of the episodes they didn't have a second unit director?
He might have. I can't remember.
Anyway, a friend of ours made a comment, and I've been meaning to look into it, but apparently there were some episodes where he didn't like a second unit director wasn't listed. And when you don't, for anybody who's ever been on a set or knows about filmmaking, like without a second unit director, you're not getting a lot of those pickup shots that you need to fill in, the frames, and the scenes that you're shooting. And so, you end up with an episode like episode 3 when that happens, and so, even though I like some things in episode 3, that's why I'm not able to like call it like 100% bad or anything. Like it's maybe like probably give it like a 6 out of 10 or something like that. And I love the whole, I know that this is divisive, but I do not care. I love the whole cyberpunk influence. Like it doesn't bother me at all. Like the mods and their flashy moped things and just all of that. Like I love that. Like I really do. Like get weird. I don't care. Like I've said so many times, like I love it when Star Wars gets weird. And also I love it how like Star Wars is like a melting pot for genres. It's been like that for a very long time. And so I don't really buy into this whole, well, Star Wars has to be this one thing. And so because there are so many influences on Star Wars, at the beginning it was like serialized Saturday morning Western merged with like Eastern mysticism and like samurai movies.
Yeah.
And layers have been like added on to that,
and then kaiju stuff
40 years.
In this week, we had some monster stuff this week.
We even did the first episode too.
That was a great one. We'll get to that in a minute.
We will. Yeah.
Hey, really quick, Jack actually says something. He's got a good point. He says they looked like Vespa speeders. The only problem I had with them was that they appeared really slow, kind of like a Vespa. I agree. They did not look, to me, I didn't mind the look. They looked very Star Wars to me. Only problem was they were so slow. Like that sequence in episode 3 where they were going, it was bad. Like, and I even in this episode when they were riding it for the little bit of time they were, I was like, please get off. It's not that they look bad, it's that they look they work bad.
in the finale, though, they had a sense of speed that they didn't have in episode 3. In my opinion. Now, I think that was just like the angles that they were using, and the shots that they were using. Because, when you've got something like that, like it's just like in episode 3, those things that should have been obscured and framed to give us a sense of speed, right? Yeah. Like when you're talking about framing, that's like crucial. Like everything you see in the frame, that's what's important. Anything outside of it does not matter. And so I think that was part of the issue, and if they lacked a second unit director, that was probably part of it too. But I loved the whole vibe of the mods, and that, like I said, that cyberpunk influence. And Star Wars has had it. I mean, Star Wars Episode 2 has a cyberpunk influence in the streets of Coruscant, and some of the costuming and and visuals. I mean, there's a scene, you think about Attack of the Clones, there's that when they're kind of in the streets of Coruscant, it stinking reminds me of Blade Runner. Like it reminds me of Blade Runner. So at any rate.
Yeah. But that being said, the mod gang, they were in the finale. Let's talk about the finale somewhat. What do y'all say? What, Josh?
Do we want to get there just yet?
Dude, I think so. I think it's time.
Because we completely skipped over episode 6, which is pretty important.
I'm sure we'll get in and out.
Okay.
We weren't going deep into each one episode at a time. Jack does say in the finale,
Luke Skywalker showed up, but whatever.
Yeah, that's kind of a big deal. Jack does say in the finale, Fennec's speeder bike was crazy fast, and it seemed so weird how slow the Vespas were. I totally agree.
Yeah, that was something I noticed too. Like her speeder looked completely fine, like in terms of like how it was moving, but the mod gang speeder is like, I don't know, man.
Yeah.
So were they still too slow in the finale? I don't know
just
why.
go faster.
I thought they were, man. I thought they still looked really wonky, but I don't know. Scott Tracy says cyborgs have been woefully absent from Star Wars since The Empire Strikes Back. I'm trying to think of cyborgs in The Empire Strikes Back, and I know I've seen them before. But
Lobot.
Oh,
Lando's assistant.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you. Oh, yeah. Good call, dude. Yeah. So there's precedent, obviously, in Star Wars for cyborgs. You know, obviously, I would love if we could see him with a Vespa on Cloud City.
Yes.
He seemed a little, a
little stiff.
Curry.
Curry's in the chat. What's up, Curry? Curry says, Drew, we know what you look like. Show your face. Great to see you on the show. Hate that I missed out. Yeah, Curry. Drew actually had his iPad, but he had audio issues, so he went back to the old PC.
Unfortunately.
Let's get to actually talking about specifics on the finale. So let's go, Drew, first. What were your thoughts? And then we'll go into more details, just general thoughts on the finale.
Yeah, so
You have to do it every time.
You
said general thoughts, and I did that.
Oh, I'm sorry. I missed it. General thoughts?
Oh. In general, so I guess I'll put it this way. I loved episode 5 and episode 6. And so I was, just because they felt a lot more cohesive and higher quality than some of the other episodes. And so when I, realized, the last episode is going to be Robert Rodriguez again, I was like, please just give me a good episode. Because I really liked his episode in Mandalorian Season 2. And so whenever we got his other 2 episodes in the Book of Boba Fett, I was like kind of disappointed. I was like, what's going on here? But yeah, I was just like, my biggest hope was that the finale it didn't need to be mind-blowing, but good enough to where I enjoyed it, and good enough to where I could look back on that and not really be disappointed. And I'd say for the most part, that definitely it worked for me. I really enjoyed the episode. The action was way better compared to his previous ones, especially in like the second half of the episode with King Kong.
Yes.
But yeah, I had a great time with it. There was a few things specifically with like Cad Bane that we can get into later, but yeah, overall I enjoyed it.
Cool, man. Yeah, awesome. Josh, what did you think of the finale?
I was just like, a kid in the candy store watching this episode, honestly. I do, I've got some nitpicks, I've got some issues, but I just couldn't keep my eyes off the screen. I didn't get bored 1 second watching that episode, and I think that is what the finale was supposed to be. It was supposed to be guns blazing, Western shootout plus kaiju King Kong things plus high speed chase plus probably a lot of other things I'm missing right now.
Kids.
Yeah, plus Spy Kids.
Yeah. Yeah, the twirl.
Yeah, the twirl. Yeah, the twirl.
It took over the internet. Let me just
There's
tell you,
guys. There's so many Star Wars.
Guys, I tweeted earlier.
Listen. I love the Spy Kids spin move, Curry. By the way,
Yeah.
I love it. It's so extra. It's the kind of extra I like.
Listen,
it's so extra,
guys. This is Star Wars. I want y'all to think back to Star Wars, all of the old movies, the prequels and the original trilogy, how many spin moves have been necessary?
Yeah. Yoda,
I
for
mean,
example, in episode 2.
how many lightsaber twirls have been necessary? Like there are so many unnecessary spin moves in Star Wars. I'm not saying we should like love all of them. I get that they're silly, but I think that's very much a Star Wars thing, and it's a funny thing that people are losing their mind over. That's just the thing on Twitter this week that everyone's losing their mind about. And I just was like, I don't get it. Like if you look back, I even posted another thing on Twitter. It was just a gif of Obi-Wan doing a useless spin against Darth Vader in A New Hope, and it's always been funny to me, but it's just
Who
silly.
doesn't love a good useless spin?
Yeah, come. I mean, it's just not a big deal. Anyway,
I mean, even Anakin was like, I'll try spinning. That's a good trick.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's totally canon. Okay?
Absolutely.
So now,
and the mods are so extra anyway. Like, of course he would twirl.
Of course he's gonna be like this peacock, right? And he's just gonna like, woo! He's like, look at me. No, yeah.
He's just trying to add some flair.
It's not an issue for me.
Curry says it's more about the execution for him. I'm sorry. What about slow motion doesn't work for you?
Yeah.
Dude, I don't know. I just think it's funny to get all. I know, Curry, I totally get it, and your opinion is valid, but a lot of people have literally like said they posted Robert Rodriguez does not belong in Star Wars, and they posted that GIF to prove their point. And I'm like,
it's so stupid.
I don't necessarily need him to direct anything else in Star Wars personally, but that's not the reason.
No.
I mean, listen, if Rodriguez sticks around, I'm totally have no problem with that. I just want his episodes to be like to the level of his episode in The Mandalorian and the finale. Yeah. That's it. That's literally it. Like, because he has his own visual flair and style. Rodriguez is not a bad director. So I'm still so confused, and I'm beating my head on my desk trying to figure out what happened. Like, and it could have been pandemic related issues and not having enough crew. It could have been just how fast they were putting it all together and not having a lot of time to do the shoot. I have no clue.
Yeah.
But that finale, y'all,
some good stuff, man.
I just, whew.
So you are positive, very positive.
I'm very positive on the finale overall, honestly. Like, I was just like, this series has had ups and downs.
Yeah.
And the finale delivered just that like Star Wars action that I was hoping that at least it was all kind of building towards.
Mm-hmm.
And it definitely delivered on that in ways that I think that Rodriguez himself, he's all about being extra. So if you want a finale like that, when a Rancor bit a speeder and threw it like Godzilla or King Kong would, I was like, this is like the best thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Like in the moment, it just I was pretty thrilled.
Yeah. Jess, what about you? What was your thoughts on the finale?
Insane. I mean, that Josh really kind of said everything. I mean, it was really fun. I liked a lot of the action scenes, and then I disliked a lot of them, so it was kind of half and half on that, but overall,
in this episode,
like, I mean, the spin thing didn't bother me, but there were sometimes like Chris Stanton was like acting like he was about to die, then all of a sudden he had all this energy and he was like shooting and running, and then he was limping again, and I'm just like, oh, I don't know if that was the best. I don't know why I noticed that, but I just did, and I'm just like, where is this energy coming from?
Also, Boba is not the best of strategists
Yeah.
around. Why would he put a Wookiee in
Right?
the Trandoshan territory? That's an awful idea.
Awful idea, especially when he just like almost beat one up really bad too.
Yeah, like they have a bone to pick with him. I
Yeah.
don't know. I was like, not the best idea, Boba, you've ever had. Also, R.I.P. pigs.
Yes.
But
I enjoyed it.
Good.
Turns out that pigs can't fly.
Yeah.
Hey, at least when
the
the
Rancor
Gamorrean
stuff was so good.
Oh my gosh! And then he wrote it.
I know.
Yes.
Dude, so for me, the finale for me was I'm pretty much with you guys. There was a few things that I definitely wish were different, and we'll talk about those in a minute. But I really, really, really enjoyed this episode. It was packed. It was action packed, lots of fun. I thought it wrapped up the story better than I thought it would. Honestly, with how much was, how far we detoured away from the main story. They did wrap it up better than I thought they would. And I do think there's just something stylistically about Robert Rodriguez that doesn't quite work for me. And I think it's just a personal preference thing. Even in an episode that does work for me largely, his style is not my favorite. I don't think that he should never do Star Wars again. I just don't think that his style works well for me personally. In a lot of it, some of it I thought was really good, but some of it is still, I don't know exactly how to even pinpoint it, but I do think that it's just a stylistic thing that sometimes there's just ways that he shoots things and things like stuff that he chooses to do that just doesn't. It does feel more like Curry joked about earlier, but it does feel more like Spy Kids than Star Wars sometimes. And I love Spy Kids, but it's Spy Kids. But
is it weird to say that he would maybe his like flair would be better on like a Lando movie or show, or
he might crush
something?
a Lando movie.
You know what I'm saying? Like Han Solo or Lando.
I actually think he could probably do a great job on the Lando show. In fact, he should direct, if they're still doing that show, he should direct episodes of it. I think that'd be fine.
See, it's just like maybe his style for the style that they were trying to make this show just didn't. Mesh.
But for me, the finale though, I did really enjoy a lot of it. Here's one problem that I did have. The Rancor. Okay, first of all, I loved it. I loved the Rancor. Every bit. Whenever he came in on that thing, I was like, come on, this is just amazing. But then I also thought, would it have been better to get his ship after what he did to the biker game? And also, we've talked about this on the show before, but it's a good time to bring it back. How close to this city is Jabba's palace? It feels like it's like miles away, but he came back in like 5 minutes of screen time. I don't know. It feels like it's right there, except for when it doesn't. And so it's just kind of like it's as far away as we need it to be.
I got four words for that.
Go do it. Tell me.
I'm a man of many words, so I'm trying to keep it to 4.
4 words.
I do not care.
I understand.
Like just for me, like he brought a Rancor into the city, and it just completely. I just can't even. My brain cannot compute what I saw there. I mean,
it was amazing. I couldn't help but think
there are
that
aspects of it that made no logical sense. Like, I totally recognize this, okay, but it's like I'm not sure if I care,
dude. Here's the thing. That's the thing about Star Wars, right? It's like, yeah, you can look at it and ask logical questions about everything in Star Wars, but it was made for kids. And what if we look at it through our kids' eyes, like through the eyes of the 12-year-old, like the 12-year-old Michael instead? I mean, That was just awesome. There's nothing wrong with anything that just happened. It was amazing. But I have a hard time balancing that sometimes. You know what I mean? Especially when, like, in Star Wars, there's logic holes everywhere. Like in Star Wars, if you really wanted to pick it apart. But most other Star Wars does a decent job of, like, at least convincing us why this wouldn't happen or whatever. This show in particular just had a bunch of logic holes for me, at least at times. And I was just like, it's when it piles up, it's hard to ignore for me personally. But no, the logic aside, when that Rancor came onto the screen and when he climbed up onto that building like King Kong, it was just like the best thing ever.
And so, he roared first.
I know. It was so good. It was just like, so like on one hand,
thing ever.
Does it make a lot of sense? Probably not, but who cares? He's King Kong. So anyway, that's my thoughts. I'm generally positive on it, but I had a few things. Honestly,
Drew?
Drew, you're there, right? You're still here.
Yeah, I'm still here.
Yeah, okay. Let's talk about things. I have a major thing that I had issue with. That was more of a minor thing that I can easily brush past because awesome. Because it's awesome. There is a major issue that I have. I wanted to get y'all's thoughts on, and I want to ask Drew first. What do you guys think about Grogu choosing the shirt and choosing to leave Luke and go to Mandalore, or go with Din right now instead of later? What do you think about that choice?
Yeah, so at first I was like, I don't know how I feel about this, but the more I thought about it, I was like, it kind of makes sense, especially because, like, we all know that Ben Solo, as far as we know, was Luke's first student.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't, like, they would have to retcon stuff if they made Grogu Luke's first student. And, like, I don't know if that would, like, work properly. So, like, the more I thought about it, I was like, I don't know if that would work. Even though I would prefer him to go with Luke for a while, I think that the way they handled it worked for me. And, like, at the end of the day, I just freaking love Grogu, so...
We're not laughing at you, Drew. It's just like
no,
a
yeah,
comment.
yeah, I know. I saw. I was trying not to get too distracted, but
I'm with
I
you.
just-
Like,
I
it's
love
like you
Grogu.
can't argue with Grogu being on the screen, because when he's on the screen, he just
he takes over. He takes over the show. It is the Grogu show when he hops on the screen.
He's just so cute.
Yeah,
exactly. Like, especially in the finale, like, I love the scenes with him. Like, whenever he jumped up and gave Mando the hug, I'm like, my heart,
dude. Like, I literally, like, there is something. They've done such a good job subtly building their relationship through the show, through the Mandalorian first 2 seasons, and which is why, again, I will push back on anyone that says the Mandalorian is filled with filler episodes. That does not, the connection that those 2 characters have with each other does not happen if all of the episodes are filler. Like, the way that we feel whenever he leapt into Mando, or even before that, when Mando saw him and he was like, like the reaction that he had to seeing Grogu and the way that he spoke to him, like, I fully believe that he loves him. I fully believe that Grogu loves Din. I fully believe that relationship, and it has been, like, subtly built up over 2 seasons. I think their story is one of my favorite Star Wars stories. It's so good. But anyway, I have other problems, but I love seeing him in this episode, and anytime they're on screen together, it's magic. It's absolute magic.
I agree with Drew that they probably were avoiding a blatant continuity error by doing it this way.
Yeah.
I think that, and that's all well and good. I mean, it's still, it still makes me wonder, okay, could this stuff with, like, Grogu and Mando and Luke been saved for, like, the beginning of season 3 of The Mandalorian instead? And still have Mando involved on Tatooine, right? but the absence of Grogu, absence makes the heart grow fonder, right? So that puts some more space between the end of season 2 and when they, reunite eventually, and so I still think there's an argument to be made that time frame was a bit too short. Especially considering just how dramatic the end of season 2 was and how just definitive it felt. Not that they weren't ever going to see each other again, but that it was going to be a really long time, and so they would have had to rework the story some and everything and so forth. But at the same time, I'm just not gonna. So I get that. On the flip side, and this is me, I always argue with myself. What they did do with it, I appreciate.
Yeah.
And I see what they were going for. Because especially in that finale where there was just so much explosions and death and craziness, like them reuniting. I mean, there were some very touching moments in that finale that I don't want people to overlook because guns were blazing. There were touching moments between Mando and Grogu, obviously, and them reuniting and them protecting each other. We got to see Mando protect him. We got to see him protect Mando. And so that connection, as you said, that love that they have for each other was so apparent. It was just like gushing, and so that was really, good. I just, my main thing is, I don't want to a rush to a conclusion, wanting to get to a particular conclusion. Sometimes you can go so fast that you can undercut the impact of something that came before.
Yeah.
And so that was the only, I'm still kind of going back and forth on that. But what they did in the finale with those two was, I thought, phenomenal, honestly. Like awesome. I don't have any criticisms of how their relationship obviously was once they were, reunited and everything. And let me just say that R2-D2 and Grogu showing up in the X-Wing alone was the most adorable thing I've ever seen.
When R2 says basically tells Pelly that his name is Grogu, and she's like, "That's a terrible name. I'm not gonna call him that." That's so many fans. She is a fan of Star Wars. So many fans.
I love her so much.
I'm not gonna call him that. I thought that was
great.
And
I died laughing when she lost her too.
She just spits it out into the stand.
So good.
So she's just a great character.
Yeah, I love her. She's grown on me because I did not like her in the first episode she popped up in, probably because I did not like that episode. But I've talked enough about that on this show. I really do. I feel like every episode I have to mention it for some reason. It just naturally pops up. But I really do love her character. Every time I've seen her since then, she's grown on me and burrowed her way into my heart. I really do love her. Jess,
and she's loyal to the Mandalorian, and she's like one of the few that he can actually rely upon and trust. And so there's that too. On a side note, I will say really quick that I really appreciate the decision that they made for as much as I love Luke Skywalker and I want to see more of him,
not having Luke here.
I think that that was a very prudent, restrained decision for them to not have him show up and kind of be this, savior, in that moment. I think that was a very, very smart decision.
Yep. I agree with that. Jess, what did you think of the Grogu and Luke versus Din situation and how they handled it in this episode?
I mean, I kind of expected, I think, from the beginning and knowing what we do, like in the sequels, that Grogu was gonna pick Mando. Like, I think that was kind of like in my mind from the beginning that he's not gonna, this path isn't gonna happen for him.
Yeah.
And so it didn't really surprise me. It surprised me how they did it and how quick that they did it, and that they did it in this versus like Ahsoka or The Mandalorian or something like that. I think I just kind of thought that Grogu would be picked up in maybe like another season or something.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
there would be something else that would happen. So it did surprise me a little bit, but I don't think I have a big issue with it because it's kind of what I was expecting the result to be. So
I think my problem with it kind of is what Josh was saying, what he's kind of wrestling with. Like for me, the Mandalorian season 2 finale was so powerful, and
Mhm.
how that was executed was so good. And we just kind of thought like, okay, I thought we might not even see Grogu in season 3 until the end or something. Like I thought we were going to go a while.
yeah.
And that made it so powerful. Him giving him like Luke taking Grogu with him, and Din being okay with it, and all of that was so powerful. To him taking his mask off, like I will never like that. That scene is just so powerful. But now that he's already back with him, it does, to me, at least to this point, kind of lose a little bit of luster. But I do wonder, like, there have been so many times with these shows that every time we have a thing that we're like, but I thought like they're gonna do this, and I thought, but like, or like like even when we talk about the dark saber, the problems with canon and the dark saber, and it's like, oh, the Mandalorian dark saber doesn't match up with the Clone Wars dark saber and all that. Well, they answered that in this season of the Book of Boba Fett, and so many people were just worried about it. We were even talking about it in the group that we're in, guys. Like we were even talking about that, and it was just like that was literally answered this season. So many people were concerned about about that Darksaber situation, and or even at the beginning of the Mandalorian, so many people were concerned about like, wait, we've seen Mandalorians take their helmets off. This isn't Mandalorian. What's going on? Well, they answered that. We just have to give them time. Maybe this is one of those situations where I just have to ride it out. Like this is one of those situations. Maybe it's not all going to be smooth sailing next season. Maybe there is going to be some time apart, but for a different reason than we thought. And I think y'all are absolutely right about this does, cause them to not retcon something from the sequels, and it does cause it for them to keep some canon intact. And I obviously and that was kind of something a lot of people were worried about too. And I was always like, guys, just watch. We'll see what happens. And there you go. Happened.
As we have been saying, The Mandalorian and now the Book of Boba Fett
and the Bad Batch, which you'll see,
are actually strengthening the sequels already. They're not retconning the sequels.
Yes, sir.
So I'm
sorry.
But
Josh, I saw this guy named Mike Zero, and he told me they were.
Yeah, I know. It's
Geeks and Gamers, man.
Yeah, Geeks
right
and
about
Gamers
everything.
and Mike Zero told me that they were totally retconning the sequel.
Yeah.
Kathleen Kennedy is leaving for the 500th time. Right?
She's been leaving for 7 years.
Exactly.
Yeah. I do think that in season 3 of Mandalorian, I do expect, and just because we saw it plenty in season 1 and 2 of the Mandalorian, there'll be plenty of obstacles for those two. We have no idea what's going to happen. As you said, Mike, Mando could lose Grogu again, but for a completely different, reason.
Yeah.
He was safe with Luke, but if he loses Grogu again, Grogu may not be safe, which just raises those stakes.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely.
And so you just don't know.
Moff Gideon's still out there with probably the same mission,
And you there's no one more impatient than a Star Wars fan.
No, there's not.
I'm just speaking like generally here,
Including me.
And so, like, I can have like in a vacuum, I can have my concerns while also still having the hope that as the story continues to unfold, those concerns will be alleviated. And usually they are, because like these are professional storytellers. Like, you know, like not everything's going to be perfect, but these are professional storytellers telling a story that they care about, and they know fans care about it too.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I just refuse to be cynical, you know, and because I just don't think that helps anything. And I want to love Star Wars, you know, and so, so we'll see. So I still have my concerns, but you know, we'll see what happens in season 3, you know, and how kind of that all goes. Cause I think we're going to be going to places and seeing things in season 3 that, are going to be really cool.
God, I'm so excited,
you know?
man.
I think it's going to have a much more like epic scale to it too. You know, if just because, you know, that the arc of Mandalorian season 1 and 2 was resolved, and that was kind of more like self-contained. And so I tell you what, if season 3 of Mandalorian is anything like episode 5 of the Book of Boba Fett, like,
dude,
we're in for like some of the best Star Wars like we could possibly have. Oh, and by the way, Obi-Wan is coming out in May, so you know,
Let's go.
oh my gosh, I'm so excited. And that poster, oh my gosh, so
perfectly fits the tone of what I hope the show will be.
Me too. That's exactly what I was wanting. We'll talk about that later.
I also think too, and I've had a lot of side notes. So side note, I'm, and we'll get to Obi-Wan, you know, as you said, but I like the fact that Obi-Wan isn't like this. And I like Jon Favreau. I like Dave Filoni, but I like that Obi-Wan's being done by a completely different team, because
I do too.
I want to see like creative diversity.
Same.
And that's one thing that I really loved about kind of this Star Wars renaissance that kicked off with The Force Awakens. It was like, oh, they're giving, you know, now this, you know, sci-fi director, this younger sci-fi director, you know, they're giving him a shot, and they're giving Rian Johnson a shot, and Favreau and Filoni's, you know, coming into his own more as a live action director. And you know, he's basically George Lucas. He's like George Lucas 2.0. Dave Filoni is, you know, and I want them in you know, Gareth Edwards with Rogue One, and, you know, Ron Howard and so forth. And I want to see creative diversity in Star Wars. And so I'm glad that like Andor is being done by a different production team and writing team. Obi-Wan is, you know, too. And so
then we'll have Ahsoka back with Favreau and Filoni, and like,
which it'll be mostly Filoni. I mean, Ahsoka is like, that's going to be like predominantly Filoni,
probably.
That's Ahsoka is
his
baby. You know, like that's
like, even in this episode this season, I question why is Ahsoka even in this episode? Like, you could probably have done the episode without her. Oh yeah, Filoni directed it. yeah, exactly. Let's get back really quick. Let's try to get back to the finale for a minute. Drew, I wanted to ask you, you brought up the Cad Bane death earlier. Okay, first of all, people are like questioning if he died because he has some blinking lights on his chest. I don't understand that. I think he definitely died. I never remotely thought for a second that he wasn't dead just then. But it could be
a random tracker or something. It doesn't have anything to do with his heart.
Yeah, it's not his. I mean, what I don't understand. I don't get it. But like, here's the thing: even if he is dead, he's old, and we're getting more Bad Batch. I bet you he's gonna show up again in the Bad Batch. We're still gonna get Cad Bane. It's just gonna be younger Cad Bane. So like, I think we're gonna see more Cad Bane, but I think he's dead in the timeline now. I really do. But Drew, what did you think about how they handled the standoff and the overall scene with his death?
Yeah. So I mean, like, the actual like standoff itself, where they're like, you know, it's like the classic like Western look. I really loved how that was framed and everything. But I thought like the actual duel itself was a little bit underwhelming for me. I think it was one of the weaker action scenes in the finale. Um, and like I don't know, with Cad Bane being as big of a character as he is, um, I feel like he should have gone out with more of a bang. I feel like, they both should have struggled quite a bit in their duel and everything, because they're both, really like renowned, skilled, like gunslinger bounty hunters. Um, and so like I was kind of hoping for a little bit more to that fight. And then also I think that personally I would have loved if they would have kept him alive. Because I feel like they could have still done a lot with Cad Bane in live action. This was the first time we saw him. Like,
Yeah.
we saw him in the last episode, but like, I love Cad Bane. I would have loved to see him.
I mean, now that you've seen him in live action, you just want to see more of him in live action because
Exactly.
He was so
his
good.
voice, his look, everything was perfect.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But
So,
yeah.
Oh,
Go
good.
ahead.
I was just gonna say, yeah, like overall, like I wasn't a huge fan of them killing him off as quickly as they did. Which, I mean, I get we have the Clone Wars, but like in terms of live action, I felt like they could have utilized him a lot more. I mean, especially because like I feel like they're setting something up with the Pike Syndicate. We've seen the Pike Syndicate in the Clone Wars final season. We've seen stuff with them in Bad Batch, now Book of Boba Fett, and it really seems like they're setting up some sort of big story with them. And so I feel like Cad Bane could have been, a secondary villain for them throughout the series.
I mean, I think he could still be in Ahsoka. We don't know when exactly in the timeline all of that's going to be filmed. So he could have had, if they do stuff before this story with Ahsoka, before she met up with Luke, and we get all of that backstory, because obviously they're going to have to do that.
Mhm.
We have to have that conversation between the two of them. So he could be in that. Like we might not get him in the Book of Boba Fett, but we could get him in other things.
It makes you wonder if like the Pike Syndicate is going to be like in league with, because we know Thrawn's out there somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And we also know, based upon what Kathleen Kennedy has told us, is that these shows are going to be building towards like a massive earth-shattering Star Wars crossover event. Right. And the crossover has already begun. So folks, you're going to be seeing more of this, like you're going to be seeing more crossover type stuff happening. And so it just kind of makes you wonder, like with the Pikes, if they're, they'll have an alliance with Thrawn or whoever, it may be much like in the prequels, how there were, like on the separatist side, there were multiple alliances, for a time. That's just kind of how that's war, that's how war works, So.
Yeah. And I agree. I think it wasn't quite, I feel like it happened a little too quick. I like the symbolism of him using the gaffy stick. I think that worked well, but like we talked about earlier, I think it probably would have been a little stronger if we spent more time with that side of things. Maybe an episode or two. But I liked him killing him in that way.
Definitely.
And when you think about the history of the two characters in the Clone Wars, Josh, you'll see one day. When you think about the history between those two characters, and I feel like when you think about that, I think the death is a little more powerful, even though, like for me, it wasn't necessary. I didn't necessarily think, oh, we only got 2 episodes of him in live action. I thought that, like, I don't know, it just kind of, I had the Clone Wars in the back of my mind, and then I had him coming into this show all as one. Like, and so for me, it was just like, this worked pretty well. Probably could have been done a little better. Maybe even would have been better to do it later. But it worked for me, and it kind of it worked because of the symbolism, like I talked about with the Tusken, the gaffy stick, and especially right during that I loved the dialogue during their fight too. Like
Oh yeah.
That was the strong part. Was
Yeah.
their dialogue.
It was so good, and
Mhm.
I can't get enough of that voice. It's just so I could have that. I could have a Cad Bane. Can we have the book of Cad?
Yes, please.
That'd be great.
Give it to me.
But Jessica, what thoughts on the execution of the no pun intended, the execution of the of Cad Bane death?
I agree with what you said. I like that it was the gaffy stick that he used. I like that they slowed it down and it wasn't, what people maybe thought would be, quick draw, an old duel type situation.
Mhm.
I'm glad they did it that way. To me, it was a little bit more symbolic of him being like, oh yeah, these are my people. You're not, too, because I mean, he even called him the nickname that he called him as a kid, and I feel like that was kind of him trying to be demeaning. And so I saw this almost kind of as a rite of passage in a sense of Boba.
Yeah.
Again, his bully from his childhood, he stood up to him in a sense, like, I don't know. I think we'll get more Cad Bane in live action, so that's why I think I'm not like that upset that he died so soon. But I mean, I think if it fits within the story, it fits within the story. So we just have to wait and see.
Fair point.
Yeah, totally. Let's go with just any general thoughts that we had. Here's the thing about this episode. Last week we had so many details to talk about because it was so, like, the last 2 weeks have been just crazy deep thematically, and so many things happened in the story to talk about. But in this one, there was a bunch of cool action. I'm trying to think of other specific things to talk about. Do any of y'all have any specific areas of the episode you'd like to revisit and talk about?
First of all, that Rancor must be protected at all costs.
I agree.
That's number one. Number two, and I want to go back and watch the finale because I'm not going to be able to quote anything directly.
Yeah,
I'll think about it, but I'll say this as quick as I can. The continued growth of the relationship between Boba Fett and Din is really great.
Mm-hmm.
And there were some cool moments between them in the finale that I don't want to get lost.
That's some of my favorite parts, honestly.
I agree. There were just those quieter moments, and I'm always a bigger fan of those.
Me too.
Anyway, yeah. I like those moments that breathe and allow like true character moments to occur before things start blowing up again. And so, but Boba's still trying to figure out who he is, and he's changing. And Din's a bit further along than Boba Fett is, I would say to an extent. And so you had those interactions between them where they were talking about like loyalty, right?
Mm-hmm.
And being there for each other, and Din's principles, this is the way, and Boba respecting that, and probably some of that rubbing off on Boba too, and making him stronger and more resolved. Like I said, I want to go back and watch the finale again, but I just remember being really impressed with that, the interplay between them from like a character interaction standpoint, and how they really do kind of like sharpen each other. And really, I think it's Din sharpening Boba mostly, because they have similarities, but they're also so very different.
Yes.
And they have in some ways a shared heritage, but a completely different path, that they've taken, but there's mutual respect there. And so it was so brief, but just what they did give us in those moments between them, I thought was really impactful, and I'll be able to talk about it more when I go back and watch the finale. But you know, even in spite of some of the lows of this series, like I want to see more. Like I still want to see more Boba Fett. Like I still want him involved. I think he has a role to play in what is going on. You know, and you know, whether we see more of him on Tatooine, where he's continuing to assert, you know, his, you know, the control of his kingdom, so to speak, and protecting Tatooine from the Pikes, or whether, you know, he ends up, you know, leaving Fennec in charge for a while and going on like a Mando quest, you know, with Din. Who knows what's going to happen?
I have this feeling he's going to be a very important character for Din in The Mandalorian going forward, because he has so much more knowledge of a lot of the things about the Mandalorians that Din doesn't know and that he's looking for. I mean, if he's supposed to go on this quest that he can't complete, who else can help him more than Boba Fett?
Yeah,
I tend to agree.
Yeah. And that's the thing. We're going into like we're about to have a bunch of, you know, as the shows go on, we're going to get more and more, you know, crossover into all this stuff. And I think it just makes a ton of sense that Boba and Din have a strong bond. And what's interesting too is that even in this, like I think Josh, you brought it up, but they definitely both have a strong sense of like creed, or like a strong sense of honor of some kind, but very different senses of honor at the same time. Like in this episode, Boba even was like, you believe that, whatever, I don't remember what he called it, but you really believe that stuff? And Din was like, I do. And so like they're coming from kind of different sides of the coin, but I love how we're seeing the different sides of the Mandalorian coins, right? I think we're going to go into that in season 3. And so I think we see Boba Fett in season 3 at some point. Probably. It makes a ton of sense. Yeah, I don't know. I'm excited. I really think that, Jessica, I think it was you that said you were just really excited. One of your favorite parts of the show or of the episode was Din and Boba together, those scenes.
Yep.
And I agree. I think that their relationship being formed over the last few episodes of season 2 and now into this show, I think it's really good stuff. I think it's starting to become even powerful. Like it's not just like, oh, these two cool dudes are friends now. It's like, no, like this is like powerful stuff. Like when you see man to man, like laying down your life for a fellow man kind of stuff. That's like really powerful, like gladiator stuff, you know? And so obviously we're not quite there yet, but like, I think this is shaping up to be a really cool and deep relationship. And I'm loving it. I'm loving it. Any other stray thoughts before we get into we'll go to the chat for a while?
Cobb Vanth. Really glad.
Vanth
refrigeration. Funny enough, he actually was being refrigerated in the final scene. So
I thought that actually.
But no, yeah, I'm
job,
really, really glad they kept him alive, because I am a big fan of his character.
Heck yeah.
To the point where, screw it, I know they keep making a bunch of spinoffs, but I would love a Cobb Vanth show. It would be awesome. But yeah, I'm really glad they kept him alive, and I think, like, I don't know, like, the ending of the finale kind of gave me the implication that they're setting up Cobb for something bigger. Because there was the whole scene where Boba and Fennec are walking through the city, and I don't remember what they say specifically, but it's something along the lines of like, I don't know if we're cut out for this kind of thing. And so I'm almost wondering if they're setting up like Vanth to become the new mayor of Mos Espa. I mean, like, you know, we already have seen him lead his own little town. We know he's good at it. So and like he's also like a pretty good dude. So I think that would be kind of cool if they set that up, and like maybe Boba still keeps Jabba's palace and he does his own kind of thing and they work together.
Yeah.
So like that part of me, like the big thing is like I wonder where they're going next with these characters, because they kind of laid some groundwork for a story to be continued for possible season 2 maybe. So I'm just curious what they're doing with all of that.
Even with Boba
That's a good
saying
point.
like we weren't cut out for this, like he's not feeling the crime lord thing, I don't think. So I wonder
Yeah.
what they're doing
No.
with that.
Mhm.
Which is probably smart of him. Like he's not very good at it.
Well, it's because he's not ruthless enough.
Yeah.
Like he's chosen to not be, and his hope was, man, maybe I can wield the power of Jabba, but wield it with more principle.
Mhm.
The problem is the power that Jabba had was wielded by being a murderous thug.
Yeah. Right.
And that's the only reason why Jabba had the power that he had.
Yeah.
And so I mean, I agree I mean, Drew makes a really good point. I mean, it could kind of be a turning point, you know.
And that could allow Boba then to go and help Mando with whatever.
Yeah, totally. Which could, I really like where y'all's heads are at here. I think this could be, they did totally leave it open for a season 2. And honestly, I've seen a lot of people saying they didn't have enough story for a season 1. So why would they do a season 2? Well, it's because now I kind of have switched. And again, maybe they should rename the show. They're probably not going to at this point. I don't know. I've never seen that happen before, but like, I think we just all know now the Book of Boba Fett's not just going to be about Boba Fett. And so like for me, as long as we all have the expectation now of, Boba Fett's going to be maybe the main character of this show, but we're going to get plenty of others. I think that they could do a Book of Boba Fett season 2. So I don't know. I think they laid the groundwork for at least something else on Tatooine here. I don't know what that would be, but I'm excited to see where this goes. Even though this was an uneven season for me, I think I have landed at there was definitely more good than bad. Absolutely, there was more good than bad for me.
I also think there's more story possibilities for a season 2. Frankly,
I do too.
now that this stuff is out of the way.
I do too. And I do want them to kind of explore. I don't feel like they got quite enough into the trauma of him losing his Tusken family. I don't feel like they explored that quite enough. So I would love to see him really wrestle with that some more, and and see his character really grow in that way. But yeah, okay. So any other stray thoughts? I would love to go into the chat in just a minute, but I want to make sure we get all our thoughts out first.
I'm good.
No.
I'm not sure how much more time I can spend on Tatooine. I'm starting to kind of like, I'm halfway joking, to be totally honest. It's like, I'm starting to kind of be like Anakin. I don't like sand.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing. When the story is good, you're not going to care.
No, and that's true. So I'm halfway joking here because it's like, so we spent this whole series on Tatooine. We're going to be on Tatooine mostly with the Obi-Wan series, which I cannot believe, guys. It's like mid-February.
Yeah,
it's going to be here so quickly.
Yeah,
it's going to be here so quickly.
I'm honestly not ready. Like I'm ready, but I'm not ready.
I'm just not emotionally ready.
Yeah.
Think about this too. We've got May the 4th coming up, probably announcements, and Star Wars Celebration shortly after that. So
yeah.
Hella Star Wars this year.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the fact that before the end of this year, which basically just started, but before the end of this year, we have the Obi-Wan show and season 3 of The Mandalorian. So
and Andor too.
Yeah, and so it's just kind of like
supposed to be the Bad Batch sometime also.
Oh yeah, Bad Batch season 2.
So
it said spring, right?
Yeah, someone said spring. I don't know when that could happen at this point, unless they're just going to overlap with live action, which they might. I think maybe animated shows might overlap more with live action shows, but it could make sense that way because I know the Bad Batch did not like kill it ratings wise. I don't think it's going to steal from like Obi-Wan or anything like that. But
I mean, I think
Totally
Bad
watch
Batch
it,
was
though, 'cause it's
Bad
great.
Batch was like a passion project for like really hardcore Clone Wars fans.
Definitely.
I'm so excited for season 2. I'm
Oh, yeah.
so excited for season 2. I love the Bad Batch.
With the direction that it's
I'm
heading.
ready for Josh to be able to watch the Bad Batch.
Amen.
One day.
Hey, speaking of chat, Jack says Rancors are awesome. That's the main takeaway. Jack, I could not agree more with you.
When I think about this episode, I see Rancor hanging off the top of a building. Like that's when I think of this episode, that's what I'm always going to see.
And Jack, I'm not knocking the Bad Batch. I'm just saying it was like kind of a.
You haven't even seen it. You can't knock it.
I know.
Exactly.
And I thought the trailers were really cool, and everybody that I like who likes Star Wars had
Everybody that I like, only the
had
people I like,
good things to say about it. So,
Yeah.
But you know, it was kind of one of the, like I said, I think it was kind of a Filoni passion project, right? Where he's like wanted to continue this, you know, and tell our story. And you know, I'm sure there are plenty of people again who have and I don't have a bias against the animated stuff. I just haven't seen the vast majority of it. There are still Star Wars fans who refuse to watch the animated stuff. And I'm like, that's becoming impossible.
Yeah.
Which because of what they're doing and how they're making it all seamless at this point.
Yeah.
Like if I want to go learn about, now that I love Cad Bane, if I want to go learn more about him, I have to watch the Clone Wars.
It's pretty brilliant, actually, if you
So
think
awesome in those shows.
Right?
So awesome.
Dude,
so I'm even like, oh my gosh, like with Ahsoka and Cad Bane and others, like I want to go back and watch the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
Like, you know, so.
Yeah. Oh. So in the chat, I backed up a little bit and I have a few I definitely want to read and catch up on. Jack says logic goes out the window when you have a loose Rancor in the streets. That is a fair point. That is a very fair point. Hold on. Curry had one that Curry had one that he probably, I don't know. Hold on. Where was it? I need to find it. I'll find it in a minute. So Curry says, I still maintain that the first 4 episodes could have been trimmed and maybe had an added action scene at the end and been a movie. Then start off season 3 of Mando with these last 3 episodes and we'd have a rock solid start. Maybe. Yeah. I see what you're saying.
I kind of do agree with Curry on that.
Yeah, I could see that, and I'd be fine with that. But I also like the show format. I just think that they wrote the story weird. I think
Do you think they wrote it for a movie and then were like, "Oh, we need to make this a show," and then they added in those other things?
I don't know. I kind of feel like they just. I kind of just feel like
it was in pre-production as a movie or something, and then it got scrapped, and then they.
Well, that definitely did happen. Like there was going to be a movie, it got scrapped, but I don't know for certain how much of the movie like made it into this show. I would be surprised if much of it made it into this show. I just because I don't know. I would think that's just a guess. I would think probably Favreau, he wrote every episode of the show. I would think he probably just started from scratch for the most part, and maybe he took things here and there. But yeah, let me finish this really quick.
Yeah.
Oh, never mind. No, never mind. I did finish it. You go ahead, Josh.
No, I was just so the first 4 episodes. Like, how do I say this? I liked them just fine. I mean, episode 3 was the weakest, but I liked the first 4 episodes just fine.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure, but I think as a movie, it would have been disappointing, though. I think it actually fits better in a series where you have some highs and lows that can balance things out a bit more. Because I think about the first 4 episodes and I go, I think people would have been really disappointed if that was the Boba Fett movie.
Yeah.
And that's what was focused on. And that was the story arc for a movie. So I don't know. Like unless it would just be like a Disney Plus exclusive, release or something.
Like a straight to home video release.
Right, like the new Ice
I mean,
Age
that's what
movie.
episode 3 felt like.
Oh my gosh, we watched that last
It
night.
is so bad.
I haven't seen it yet.
I'm like, just as I'm very gracious when it comes to movies, and I can always find something to like. I found that to be insanely obnoxious.
I thought it was cute.
I mean, I watched it with my kids.
Oh, we don't even have kids. We just watched it because we love Ice Age.
I mean, I do too. But it's
Hey,
like,
Lord of the Flame, your tail's on fire.
yeah. But I could very much tell that it wasn't Blue Sky Studios doing them anymore. And they brought so much character, to the Ice Age movies. But anyway, yeah, maybe not a direct-to-Disney Plus movie, because between Ice Age and Home Sweet Home Alone, which was also dreadful.
I didn't even try that.
Okay.
It's rough.
Just have a drink.
I'm good.
But it's excruciatingly bad. And
I watched it while I had COVID, so it made it even worse.
Oh, no.
No.
What would have made it worse if you thought it was like a fever dream? I've watched something before when I was really sick and had like a really bad fever, like as a kid, and I still am like, did I dream that movie? Was that a real movie?
Anyway.
Scott Tracy says, I feel like Pelly is the character George Lucas thought he was creating with Jar Jar.
That could
I
be.
can see that.
I can understand that.
Yeah, I can see that, because I think that I actually have grown to think that Jar Jar is more endearing than I did when I was younger. But I do think there are some times where it's like, man, when he's just beating that droid army because of accidents, like all the time, which is mine and Josh's biggest problem with the third act of that movie.
Those things bother you.
So many things happen on accident, and it just drives me insane. And so, like, for me, that's the most annoying thing. I like the klutziness, but at the same time, like, come on. But I think I like that point, Scott. That's a good point. Josh, I'm not going to let you get on that tangent.
I just love how miserable it makes you guys. I know that's horrible of me, but I just find it so entertaining that it bothers
Thanks,
you
Jess.
so
Thank
much.
you so much. Curry says, that surprised me that Luke wasn't there. Some people were disappointed, parentheses, wrong expectations, but I appreciate the restraint too. Good point, Josh. So there you go. Curry agrees with Josh. Curry also says, I hope bringing Grogu back so soon is part of many asking, what is this show without Mando and Grogu, and not just dragging that out. Also not retconning Ben Solo being the first, not retconning Ben Solo being the first. Maybe it just feels weird because it happened on Boba. Yeah, I think that's probably one of the weird things, is because it feels like it just does feel like that's something that should have happened in the Mandalorian show, probably. But
and it almost feels like that's how they felt like they had to make the Book of Boba Fett like must-watch Star Wars.
Yeah,
too, and which just kind of bugs me a little
but
bit. Because like the Book of Boba Fett as a story should be able to stand on its own.
It should, yeah. But the problem is, I totally was more invested when Din was on screen.
So it's like at the end of the day, I just want good Star Wars. Like, I don't care. At the end of the day, I'm not going to focus so much on what the show is called. Like,
same.
I just want good Star Wars. And if we're going to be getting a bunch of crossover stuff, which we are, we better get used to like characters popping in and out that seemingly may not belong because of the name of the show.
Sure.
Right? Like, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
We're about to get a lot of "that's not my Star Wars."
Yeah, that's not my Star Wars.
I think my only hope is stop it.
Reminds me of a song from A Walk to Remember.
I thought the same thing, dude. I just literally had that song get stuck in my head.
I was thinking Princess Leia. You're my only hope.
I know. Jessica was doing a Star Wars joke.
So she went to Star Wars. I went to A Walk to Remember. Like, I don't know.
Oh my gosh, one of the songs from that soundtrack played on something the other day, and I was like, all I can think of if I hear any song off of that soundtrack is that movie. Is a
I know now you're my only.
You're gonna make me cry.
Switchfoot. So,
You made me
oh,
cry.
so,
you know how
but
many
my
people probably don't even know what movie we're talking about?
Oh,
That's
we're
like
too
peak,
old.
everyone knows a
peak
walk to remember,
millennial. It's
right,
peak
Jack?
millennial movie.
It's mostly millennials.
It
It
is
is a
mostly.
peak millennial movie.
Yeah,
You're right. It is definitely. But hey, really quick. So my main thing is going forward. I think I don't think they always go overboard with this, but I think there is a tendency if they aren't cautious. I don't want them to use characters to use, what if you want to call them cameos or whatever. I want them to use them well and smartly. I don't want them to I don't want every episode, and I feel like Star Wars fans have a tendency to get this way. Like the whole thing becomes, who are we going to see on next week's episode? I don't want that. I want to be asking questions about the story. And if we get that a character that improves the story, that's great. But we should be asking questions about what's happening in the story, not who's going to show up this week. Because that's, to me, it kind of cheapens it for me. And I think the Bad Batch did that really well. I think at times the Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett might have gone a little overboard, but I just hope they're cautious. That's all. I hope they're cautious with it, but that would be my only thing.
I agree.
Yeah. Drew, any thoughts on that? I know I haven't heard you in a minute.
Yeah, no, I think y'all kind of covered pretty much everything I was gonna say.
Okay, cool. Curry says, "I will die when Obi-Wan and Vader see each other." Yeah, I'm not prepared. I'm not ready yet.
No.
Jessica, are you ready?
On that note,
I'm not ready for any part of that show.
No, none of us are. None of us are.
In a good way. We have to prepare.
But it's also like all the pieces, from what we can tell, like the right pieces came together. They've got a great director in Deborah Chow.
Yeah, man.
A great cinematographer too.
Yeah, it was the cinematographer for
Last Night in Soho,
and some other
Chapter 1, Handmaiden, a few other really good films.
Yeah, cool. So they've got like a legit cinematographer. They've obviously got the actors that they need. Looks like, as Michael said, and Drew, you too, just from that poster, if that's kind of the aesthetic they're going for, that's my vibe. Aesthetic. That's like that. When I saw that poster, I was like, I think this is made for me. Like,
I thought that too.
This is made for me.
Yeah,
this is made for my broken millennial soul.
Yeah, like just the vibe. It's the vibes, man.
Because the thing is, I've been saying this entire season of the Book of Boba Fett, like, this is fun. It's not my vibe. Like, it's not made. This show was not made for me.
No.
I think just judging based off of the cover, by the poster and everything that I'm hearing about this show, Obi-Wan is looking like my vibe. And I am just so excited for Jesus in the desert.
Yeah, the only thing that I'm just like crossing my fingers, and I'm hoping they're just keeping it like a heavily guarded secret, but it's like, I think we're expecting, and I think it's reasonable to expect, like, there's going to be, we're going to be getting into Obi-Wan's psyche. Like, there's going to be some pretty serious psychological things going on here, dealing with the aftermath, of losing Anakin, all that stuff. I am just hoping against hope that there's a Qui-Gon Jinn cameo. Like, he doesn't have to be, and I've said, but he doesn't have to be in the whole thing. It can just be one or two appearances where it's meaningful, like where it just really, really matters. But I'm just like, it's just right for that.
Yeah.
Like,
and
dude,
just, I'm just telling you.
Also right for? Right for having flashbacks that include, like, if Samuel L. Jackson wanted to be Mace Windu again. without
No, I'm just
bringing him
kidding.
back from the dead.
Yeah, that's
And Samuel L.
that'd be fine.
Jackson hasn't aged in 20 years, so he looks like literally the same.
Yeah, so
And
like I would
so-
love to see more Windu
Oh,
in something like
Disney
this.
has
as, like, a
already
flashback.
de-aged him for Captain Marvel. He looked great.
Yeah, that's true.
That's a good point.
He looked amazing. Josh, what you were saying about Qui-Gon, there is even more precedent for it after you watch the Clone Wars. There's an
Oh, yeah.
arc. There's a
Yeah,
Yoda
it's-
arc in
I would
episode.
say I would say it for sure was gonna happen.
There's an arc in season 6 that's a Yoda based arc, and by the way, that arc is right up your alley. And it will. I think that when you see that, it'll be like even more precedent for Qui-Gon could totally show up as a Force ghost in this, or in a flashback form, whatever. But I think even as a Force ghost, it would be perfect.
Isn't Qui-Gon is not he the one who kind of discovered how to do it?
Yeah, pretty much. I think if that's correct.
I mean, at the end of episode 3, there's that conversation between Yoda and Obi-Wan about communing with Qui-Gon and how Yoda will teach him how to.
Curry says yes. Yeah, Curry says yes. Yeah, I think, and he teaches Yoda, which is what that arc is that I'm talking about, Josh. So
and Curry's the prequel lore, like if you need to know prequel lore, Curry's the guy.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So okay, let's get back through these things. Let's see here. I could talk about Obi-Wan all night.
I know.
Jack says was a little upset for the Bane death. Could it worked for me though, considering Bane and Boba's past relationship? That's kind of me too, Jack. I think it could have been better probably, but the past relationship in the Clone Wars helped me not straight up think it was too early. I think I was fine with it because of the past. Drew, you sound like you agree.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
I do too.
Yeah. So, but I totally get too, like if like you're someone who hasn't seen those shows, like that would be really quick. That would be an unfortunately quick death for such a cool character. So I would say to those people, Josh, watch the Clone Wars. Okay, Curry says, I think this is because of what I was saying about Cad Bane is definitely dead. I don't know why.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know why people are going on about, him not being dead. Curry says, because it's a totally unnecessary overhead shot that lingers on him with sound design explicitly created to make us focus on his chest beeping. That's why, LOL. I did not notice the beeping at all. I just noticed the shot overhead. To me, that was just like closing out like his character. Like to me, that was just I
didn't hear the beeping, but I need to listen.
I didn't hear it. Like to me, it was literally just a shot slowly going over this legacy character that has just passed. Like that's what it was to me.
Also, like, is Boba dumb enough to just leave his body there? Like, I don't think they would just leave him lying there. To, like, if he was alive, to like just sneak off. Like, I don't know.
I don't know. I just still think he's dead. I did not think that it was intentionally done with sound design and stuff to make us see that. I just thought, I don't know.
I just thought, could it even be something that's signaling to someone that he died? Like
it could
we don't know what it is.
It could be that, but yeah.
So many characters are getting jacked in that episode. Oh my gosh! like the mayor.
Yo, dude, the mayor.
Like, that was gruesome. Boy. Like for Star Wars, that was gruesome, man.
Oh, by the way, Fennec was awesome. We got to see her really be awesome. And that was great. That was a great scene. Jack says, agree with Drew, would have loved a switch from Bane and maybe a betrayal later down the road. Gotcha. Jack says, I just want Ahsoka, Ezra, and live action Thrawn. Dude, we're getting it. It's going to happen. We're going to get it. Scott says, Ezra is going to be 40 when he shows back up. That's really weird to think about, but I'm down. I'm so down for middle-aged Ezra. Let's go.
Yeah. Middle-aged?
How old are you?
I'm going to be 38 this year. So that just hit like really, that was just, man. But yeah, no, that's true. No, it's true. You know?
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Not middle aged. Oh my
Well,
god.
it is.
40 is kind of
It's not.
40 is the new 50. Wait, what? 40 is the new 30. It's what
there
I
you go.
meant to
There you
say.
go. There you go.
I was like, you said that backwards.
I did say it backwards, or did I say it on purpose? Let's see here. Curry says marketing is key. Yeah, I agree, Curry. I think the biggest problem with this show was that it set expectations of a Boba Fett centric show that dives into the psyche of Boba Fett, and it does not sound like it's going to be a big crossover thing, and it turned out that it was. And so I think that marketing could have saved a lot of people a lot of annoyance, honestly. Going
I just
through-
want folks, and I agree with that. I just want folks to like look at the story, look at it for what we got, and not focus on like what they didn't get or not. Like, because my background is marketing, and I totally get that.
Isn't that how we should look at all Star Wars?
I agree, but I do think it's totally fair to expect a show called The Book of Boba Fett to be primarily about Boba Fett and not go away from him for 2 entire episodes. I think that's totally fair and reasonable.
It is.
I don't think it's ridiculous at all. But then I'm like, well, okay, but let's look at what we did get. It's a Star Wars show. But I guess to me, like, we're in this sphere, like we're following all this stuff like intently, every show they're putting out, and not everyone is doing that. And to me, that's a marketing thing. You have to,
Totally.
as a Disney executive, they should know that stuff,
And they do.
They do know that, and so it is a little baffling.
Maybe
Well,
we just don't know because we haven't seen all of it yet.
Well,
We've seen the whole season.
Well,
but
what
what's
they
coming
completely
next?
have
What's coming
planned.
next? Yeah, and that's why we like to stay optimistic and not get too cynical and everything, and just stay positive. So I mean, I agree, because like what happens in the future can reframe or at least add layers to what's already occurred, and Star Wars has always built upon itself that way. Anyway. I mean, there are things in the prequels that reframe what happens in the original trilogy to an extent when you watch them all together. There are things that the sequels reframe, and that's still occurring. And so we just got to be open to that. But I mean, from a marketing standpoint, I mean, that's just, you can't. It's hard to argue with, with that. I think Star Wars marketing, though, for a really long time has attempted to conceal things. It's been about like the big surprise, the big reveal, and also like redirection, like misdirection, in a way even. And that kind of excites me, but it like annoys other people. Like, because I'm all about like misdirection and subversion, like, but execution is what matters. And I think that's where we can all agree. It's like, yeah.
But what about subversion for subversion's sake?
Yeah, I've not
The
seen
Last Jedi. No,
I'm just
yeah. Oh, good. My favorite. Oh, good. The goal is always get a reference to The Last Jedi and like everything that
we have done so good, and I was like so
We
proud
have
of
done
myself
really
for
well.
not saying anything.
But now that we're there, guys, what do y'all think about The Last Jedi?
No, I'm not doing this right now.
All people have to do is go listen to the 2-part
5 bazillion hour of y'all talking about it.
Yes.
The 2-part A Certain Point of View Last Jedi podcast.
Yeah, that was back
Michael
when it was
and Josh love
and
affair
Ben.
with The Last Jedi.
It was
Yes,
us.
that's
It
what
was
we
us
should
two and
rename
Ben. That's what. And then
The Last Love Affair.
And then Josh and I did an episode on Canto Bight specifically.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Y'all should absolutely go listen to that. It's actually one of my favorite episodes we've ever done.
Star Wars Twitter ate that up.
and then we also did a 2-part episode on Luke Skywalker's arc. It was a deep dive. So y'all should definitely, me and Josh have definitely dove deep on The Last Jedi. Y'all should go back and check out those episodes. They're really fun. We do have Dragon M, which is Drew Miller. What's up, dude? He says, I'm not a Russian bot.
What do you mean by that?
Well, you are typing in all caps, Drew.
Jack says we keep saying when Josh sees this, pretty much knowing he's never gonna watch 7 seasons of the Clone Wars. He is gonna watch it.
No,
Jack.
Just
Hit the road, Jack. I'm just kidding. Don't do that.
I'm gonna be so disappointed in you and Josh if you don't watch it.
I'm going to.
Peer pressure. We can do this.
Curry, Revenge of the Sith is better than what? Everything?
Oh, then The Last Jedi, maybe.
Oh, then The Last Jedi. Oh,
Is that a new comment from Curry?
it is. It's
It
like
is,
right,
yeah.
yeah. It's
No,
like
it's
right
not. No, it's not.
No, it.
All right, continue.
Hey,
Curry,
Drew,
Stop.
Yeah.
Stop, Curry.
Drew. Where would you rank Revenge of the Sith and The Last Jedi like on your list?
Man, see, so like I use Letterboxd a lot, and I've moved my Star Wars ranking around so many freaking times.
I am too.
But I will say I love both of those films, and I've grown to appreciate Rise of the Skywalker a lot more over the years.
I wish I could too, man. Gosh, I'm so jealous of you.
But yeah, The Last Jedi though, definitely near the top for me.
Yeah.
Mm.
And we all love Revenge of the Sith, by the way.
Dude, Revenge of the Sith is my number 5. Last Jedi is my number 3. Though, so
Same.
so Curry, I would say this is evidence that you're just wrong. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah. Yeah. You know what's so cool about it, and we've talked about this before, is it's like now we've had like 3 distinct generations of Star Wars fans, right? Because you have like the original trilogy fans, you've got the sequel trilogy, prequel trilogy fans, you have the sequel trilogy fans, and I mentioned this before too. I'll never forget a comment that I saw, after The Rise of Skywalker came out, and just, you had this new, it was a comment in one of the Star Wars groups from a younger guy, teenager, and was just like, oh my gosh, I loved it. This is, this is my Star Wars essentially,
Mm-hmm.
And so, you've got 3 generations of fans here, and there is something to be learned from all of them. There's, even if like the prequels weren't your favorite or the sequels weren't your favorite. I mean, heck, there are some people who prefer the prequels over the original movies, and that's perfectly fine too. But it's all one story, and that story is still unpacking, 40 years later, So, and they're all intentionally bringing it together so none of it can be avoided. And I actually really like that.
I do too.
But my point is that you have 3 generations of Star Wars fans, and there will be more to come. And so that's good. That's a good thing. It's something
only a good thing.
Celebrate and respect and everything, because the prequels, I mean, it's true. I mean, they're not my favorite. They're not.
Gotcha.
Like I really like Revenge of the Sith. It moved up in my rewatch. Drew was talking about rewatches. I think Revenge of the Sith moved up the most in my rewatches, and I've always liked it. I definitely think it's the strongest of the prequels. But anyway, that's neither here nor there.
Drew says Revenge of the Sith number 3, The Last Jedi falls around 5. So actually, there you go, Curry. Look at you two. Look at you two on the same page there. Okay, Jessica. Drew says, ask Jessica where Empire ranks.
No.
Hey, Jessica, where does Empire rank?
I threw away the list.
Tell Drew where Empire ranks.
She burned it.
I already know. I already remember. So if you don't tell, I will.
Remember. It's out of my phone. It's deleted.
Do you want me to say it? I will.
I don't think she
Yeah.
wants you to say it.
No, I don't. I don't want to be called an 8-year-old man with chin beard again.
It's ranked number.
Hey,
Seriously,
didn't you
people?
recently rewatch though?
Mhm.
Didn't you recently?
Did it change at all?
I don't
It's
know.
It's okay if it
That's
didn't.
something mentally. I just ranking things just hurts, and I don't want to do it.
I totally get that. There's some
It
people who
does.
just refuse.
I love Star Wars, and
There
I
you
love
go.
Star
I
Wars.
love
You know
that.
what? I respect that. I wish I was more like that, but I have this
There's some that
thing where I
I
have to
like
rank
more
everything.
for just sentimental reasons,
Yeah.
and there's some that I do think might be a better movie versus on however you're looking at it. But I love all Star Wars stuff.
Yeah. Just for the record, I'm not going to say where it ranks. Let's just say she does not have Empire very high.
I mean, it's not in my top 3. I'll say that.
Drew.
It's probably not your top. Whoa. Okay, let's just rip the Band-Aid off.
Drew, let's do it.
Did I just say 10?
You said 9 or 10.
Yeah,
9 or 10.
I think.
There it is. 9 or 10, everybody.
Yeah.
Drew, where's yours?
Curry
Where's it
dies.
for you?
Yeah, hold
again.
on. Let me find my list real quick.
I need to redo it after watching a bunch of them.
Curry says, while Drew's looking for that, Curry says, can we do an 8-hour stream on Revenge of the Sith?
Yes, we
Curry,
can.
to that, I say we can easily do 8 hours. This has been the easiest 2 hours of my life. We can easily, if we can do 2 hours talking about the Book of Boba Fett, we can definitely do 8 talking about Revenge of the Sith.
Honestly, we should rewatch the prequels and do episodes on them before the Obi-Wan comes out, because it'd be a nice little
That's a
refresher.
great idea.
I'm actually
Yeah.
totally down for that. Yeah, we're doing that.
It's actually a great idea to pass the time between now and it'll be very productive.
Yeah, absolutely.
Doing it
It's
that
like,
way.
because I have some ideas for episodes, but that seems like one that just makes so much sense to do. Yeah, we're doing that. Great idea,
I have
Jessica.
good ideas sometimes.
It's a good idea.
Drew, did you find it?
Yeah, so it's, I guess in the most recent version of my list, it's number 4.
Okay, that's acceptable.
I've got A New
That's
Hope.
acceptable.
A New Hope number 1. The Force Awakens 2. Last Jedi 3rd.
The Force Awakens is number 2.
I love The Force Awakens.
I mean, I like it a lot. 2. That's crazy.
Movie. I get it. I get it.
If I ranked the movies in the amount of times that I rewatched them, The Force Awakens would be up near the top, probably.
It's insanely rewatchable.
It's
Oh,
so
yeah,
rewatchable.
That's part of why I love it so
Oh my
much.
gosh. Like if I just want to watch a Star Wars movie,
I've
it's
rewatched.
easy to just kind of go, I'm watching The Force Awakens.
I've rewatched that one probably twice as many times as I've watched The Last Jedi. But because The Last Jedi is like, I have to prepare for that. like mentally and emotionally. Like it really affects me that much. Curry says, because I mentioned earlier, Curry likes the prequels better. He corrected me. My bad, Curry. He says original trilogy as a whole is best. Revenge of the Sith is my favorite individual film, though.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Cool.
That's my bad.
How dare you, my
Curry
friend.
says I'm getting PTSD from Jessica's ranking.
Oh, that's why she doesn't like to rank things.
That's right.
Yeah.
Drew agrees. Curry, yes, we can. We can do that episode. Curry says I was planning on that too. Great idea, Jessica. Okay, so yeah, we're definitely we're doing this.
It'd be a good time for me to sneak in the
Clone Wars.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Okay, so here we go.
And then we can talk about some of that.
So Scott Tracy says, yeah, we could actually do that for sure. Scott Tracy says, unpopular opinion, Empire Strikes Back has some serious cringe in it. If you're talking about the Han forcing himself onto Leia, that's correct. But if you're talking about cringe dialogue, I don't know what you're talking about. Because to me, Empire Strikes Back is perfect. I don't think I can't think of a single problem with it. But
I mean, there's a little bit of cringe when, like, no, that's not true. That's impossible. That's a little cringe, but it's just kind of like, it's
I don't
kind
think
of, so. But I can't, that scene is so
fair.
powerful and iconic. And okay, so first of all,
Scott says both Han and the incest.
Okay, so here's a little Star Wars factoid. Luke and Leia being siblings was like a late addition.
It's not actually incest. I think Scott's
yeah,
kidding, but yeah.
Yeah. I'm just saying that it was not, they were not, and just think about how cataclysmic that would have been for Star Wars. Like now we go, oh my gosh, of course they're siblings. It's Luke and Leia, they're siblings, and it's so important for the saga. But it's like they weren't, when Empire Strikes Back was written and filmed, like they were not, especially when it was written, like that decision had not been made yet, to even make them.
Look, some decisions hadn't been made in the middle of something. Just
Do you mean they didn't have a full plan?
Fully fleshed out plan with
way.
something that cataclysmic? Oh my gosh.
I cannot believe this news.
So if you look at it from that perspective and just go, Leia was just trying to make Han angry.
Yeah.
And no one knew, I know in hindsight it's kind of like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, and Scott says, following up, Vader being the dad was a late addition too, and that is accepted as a gospel. So yeah, absolutely, totally, exactly.
Mark Hamill has a really hilarious story about how he was told, and then he had to keep a secret, and apparently Mark Hamill's like really terrible at it, which shouldn't surprise anybody.
Tom Holland.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, Tom Holland's this generation's Mark Hamill. Yeah. So he just like, Hamill just talks about how he just like avoided everybody.
Oh my gosh. Curry says, Jessica, please no, I'm kidding. Your ranking surprised me, but I really respect that you're honest with what you like and stood by it. I'm sorry if I made too much of a joking matter.
You're not. Not. You're fine.
Wait, he's not sorry? Are you really mad at it?
No, I was
I'm just kidding.
He's fine.
I
don't think he's been like that.
Yeah, I know. Curry, you're too nice. Curry says, I still
what
struggle.
What is that supposed to mean?
I'm saying he probably didn't even have to apologize because you probably didn't take it actually negative. You knew he was kidding. Curry says, I still struggle between my love for Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi for my number 2 slot. I flip-flop every couple of months. Yeah, that's hard for me too, because that is Empire Strikes Back is my number 1. Return of the Jedi is my number 3, but a while back I actually had Return of the Jedi as my number 1. So I mean, it's hard to keep those. These are fluid lists, y'all.
Now, no one wants to know where Return of the Jedi is on mine.
I know where it is, and it breaks my freaking heart.
8.
Probably low like mine.
It's about like yours with Empire.
Yeah, Return of the Jedi is at 8.
Is it 8?
8 out of 11 live action movies.
It kills me.
But there's a big, for me though, like I really like Return of the Jedi, and there's a big drop for me after Return of the Jedi. So if you just like go from like on my ranking like 1 through 8, like I find all those to be like extremely solid.
Mm-hmm.
Like good to great. But I do think, well, we won't get into it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
No Return of the Jedi slander on this
I'm not
podcast.
slandering it.
I know, I'm just kidding.
I mean, and that's another one where it's like, if you just want to like, I just feel like watching a Star Wars movie and I don't really know which one it is, but I don't want anything too heavy, but a little bit of heaviness is okay at the end. And I want a bunch of action and humor and fun stuff. Like, that's another one. It's like, you can just put in Return of the Jedi.
I just rewatched Return of the Jedi and I was reminded why I love Star Wars. Like, I literally love that movie like more than almost any other movie ever made.
Yeah, totally get it. Totally get it.
Curry says, shut up, Michael, and I don't know why. I'm pretty sure that's just something that he can say at any time.
I know.
Because you were saying he was too nice.
Curry says, I can't with Josh and Return of the Jedi.
Well,
thank you, Curry. Thank you, Curry.
The third act makes up for the missteps in the 2 previous acts, okay?
I mean, the third act is elite. It's like one of the best third acts ever.
Yeah.
But
it
the whole
also,
movie's
I mean,
great.
even so, there's so much fun stuff that happens and cool stuff that happens, like in the first 2 acts of Return of the Jedi. Like, I'm really, like, I promise you, I don't hate that movie. Like, I really don't. Like,
I know you don't.
Like, it's still like the original Star Wars trilogy is still like my second favorite trilogy. You know, with obviously the Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings
number
is
one,
the perfect,
even as a Star Wars fan, and me being a bigger Star Wars fan than a Lord of the Rings fan, as far as like
the movies, though.
Right. Like, you know, I will probably never read the Silmarillion, or however you pronounce it.
Salamander.
Cinnamon Toast Crunch. I don't know. That sounds delicious.
Gosh.
I don't
Sacrilege.
know. Yeah. No, I probably will never read that book and others like it.
You'll never read in general.
No, I will never
read.
I will never read. No, speaking of what I need to finish reading, I need to finish reading the first book of the High Republic so I can continue reading the High Republic. I feel very neglectful for the High Republic because they put a lot of work into all of
I gotta read what's next. Dude, The Light of the Jedi is so good.
Yeah, I really need to finish it.
Let's close out the show. We've gone a long time. But Jack says, I don't rank Star Wars movies. I like them all. Each has its problems, and I just enjoy them all. Star Wars is fun, so it doesn't need a ranking.
Jack.
Man,
I like
that's awesome.
To all these guys bullying me into making a ranking. I just said, I don't do it.
For the record, I did not bully you, but we were doing a rankings episode, and if you were coming on the show, then you were going to do a ranking, and you came on. No one forced you to come on.
Michael.
So Jack makes a really, like, it's interesting, though, because it's like Jack's perspective is the overall mindset I try to have, even though I do rank them.
Yeah.
Right. So
yeah.
It's one of those things where when I'm ranking them, I'm trying to treat them, and this is just how my mind works. I'm trying to treat them like any other movie.
Yeah.
Right. If I'm doing a ranking, and I'm not going to have like, I try, and we all have our biases, but when I do that, for me, like, I try to like treat a Star Wars movie from like a quality filmmaking and storytelling perspective, just like I would any other movie.
Yeah.
You know, and so that's my aim, but it's still my favorite saga, you know, and I've got plenty of it to watch still, as we know.
Which we are currently bullying you into watching.
Yeah, but as far as, you know, the 11 live action movies, like, you know, it's still my favorite saga. It's still my favorite universe, you know. And even with the Rise of Skywalker involved.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, Jessica. Sorry.
Okay, really quick.
I have faith in that.
A couple to close out. Drew says, I was bullied into a ranking too long before that episode. Or a ranking too long before that episode. Yeah, I guess we do bully people. I'm sorry, y'all. Scott Tracy says, I do rank them, and Attack of the Clones is always last.
Yeah.
Dude, honestly, Attack of the Clones was last for me until the Rise of Skywalker. And so for me, it hasn't. I've watched the Rise of Skywalker again, and I can't with that movie. You guys are so much about it. There's things I like about it, definitely.
So I'm going to be doing a full rewatch, and I'm going to be completely open to like mixing everything up and like totally blowing everybody's minds.
I'm tried, dude.
To that. But honestly, I don't know if it's going to happen.
I would really try.
We'll see.
And honestly, the Clone Wars has made Attack of the Clones better, at least like story wise for me. Yeah. Even though like pacing wise, I literally fall asleep in Attack of the Clones. It's so long. And anyway, we could talk about that later.
My top 4 are never changing.
Yeah.
Like there are some, like my top 4 are never changing. Like if there's a Star Wars movie that comes along in the future, my top 4 could change. But
man, that would be something.
It would. But my top 4, with it being Empire Strikes Back, A New Hope, The Last Jedi, and The Force Awakens, those are my top 4. It's going to take a lot.
Yeah.
to like get into my top 4. So
Jack says, not ranking Star Wars movies. It's a peaceful life. Yeah, that's true. It is.
On
Their
a
life
side
was
note,
peaceful. It was. Now it is
it's a
never the same.
it's a peaceful life. Have we? I can't remember because I know you've done a lot of podcast episodes. Have you done one focused on Rogue One? You have, haven't you?
No, we haven't. We're going to though. That's on the plan.
Well, that's a great thing. As you know, before Andor comes out. That would be a
Absolutely.
great-
True.
Absolutely, before Andor comes out. I think that's a really good point. A really good place to put
It's
that.
such an interesting thing to explore because, like, Rogue One is certainly not without its problems, but it also has so many fascinating
Mm-hmm.
things in it too. It's this weird. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's,
Yeah. I think that's a great place to put a Rogue One episode, and I think there is so much to explore with I love the idea of just like the moral ambiguity of the kind of exploring more like, no, the rebellion wasn't all good, right? They had to get their hands dirty, and the Empire isn't necessarily all bad. There's good people kind of fighting on the other side that have been kind of, either coerced into it, or maybe they don't realize what they've gotten into until they're already in it. And so I think there's a lot of that stuff that's even being explored in the Bad Batch some. And so I'm really excited to see that side of things and in Andor. And by the way, I think Andor is ripe for a bunch of cool characters to come in, like Hera Syndulla from Rebels. I think that can make a ton of sense.
I'm sure Mon Mothma will be back in it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think she's even been cast. I think that's official, if I'm not mistaken. But like, even on Rogue One, you can hear over the intercom someone say General Syndulla, whatever. You can hear someone say it. So I think they'll do it at some point. But that could be awesome. Anyway, so guys, let's end there. We have gone a long time, again, longer than we probably should have, but
I said I was only going to stay an hour. Look,
you did, and
I knew that wasn't going to happen.
Couldn't help it. Drew, thank you so much for joining us as our special guest tonight.
Yeah, man. Thank you for having me again. I always have a blast.
Look at this new tie.
This is great for the audio podcast.
Everyone,
it's a really cool tie, and it has Darth Vader on it.
It's a plaid tie with Darth Vader on it. I'm just saying, I got it for Valentine's Day.
You know what, Josh?
Beautiful,
I
Josh.
love your Darth Vader tie because I love Star Wars clothes, and especially like sneaking it in on something that you're like, oh,
yeah. I'm not sure when I'll ever. I'm gonna wear it at some point. I'm just not sure when or where, because like a lot of the events that I would go to where I would wear a tie, I wouldn't be caught dead in it.
Why?
You know why.
I think that you should wear it next time you get asked to be in a wedding. But
I will say that I have a lot. I mean, I have an insane amount of Star Wars socks. And if you ever want to hide, if you ever want to wear something Star Wars, but you can't really show it for a particular reason, like get yourself some Star Wars dress socks in particular that match from a color scheme standpoint, like the shirt and tie that you're wearing. Nobody will know. I've done that before.
Oh gosh.
Or you can just get a Star Wars tattoo like me.
You could.
There you go.
And then
Drew,
you can't hide it from anybody anymore.
Let's try to close this up, y'all. Drew, anywhere where can we find you online? Are you doing any content or anything like that everyone should be aware of?
Yeah, I'm actually one of the co-hosts of Pop Americana, which was created by good old Josh right here. So yeah, definitely check us out there. We have a discussion group, Facebook page, a YouTube channel. We're going through the Lord of the Rings trilogy right now, discussing it, doing a 20th anniversary retrospective. So,
gosh. I have to watch that video still, and the group is really fun. I can attest.
Yeah,
there are games.
Games.
Josh, obviously you are a member of this podcast crew.
I haven't created any content for it yet.
It's been a
birthed the brand and I conceptualized it, and now other people, thank God, are actually doing something with it, and I will be showing up here and there. I think I'm going to be showing up on when we do the Two Towers, because
sweet.
I mean, I love all of them, but the Two Towers is such a. I like middle movies. There's something about a
Man, I don't like middle movies normally.
I know, because you like all like the happy ending crap. Yeah, no, I'm
Can I just have something nice, Josh? Just something.
Yeah, just something nice.
Something nice.
Why are you trying to keep me stuck in middle movies? In trilogies. Yeah, because of the middle movies and the trilogies are always the most devastating ones. That's just the way the storytelling format works. But yeah, I'm going to be on the Two Towers as it were.
So that's going to happen, but you are obviously involved in this crew. This is the first episode you've gotten to do in a while. I'm glad to have you back on, but you are also an admin in a Star Wars group. Tell us about all that.
Yeah, come on to Facebook, come to the Outer Rim, a Star Wars group. We're over 5,000 members strong. We have a great civil discussion about all things Star Wars there. And if you see something uncivil, report it. Yes. We have a great group of admins who tries to keep the rails on the thing. And so
Drew is one, right?
We do. Yes, we have put out some YouTube content. We haven't done it in a little while, but hopefully we'll be, with all this Star Wars content coming out, hopefully we'll do some more. On Twitter, you can get us at Outer Rim SW. I predominantly use that Twitter account and let thoughts fly, and but you can connect to us there. And there's even a link to our YouTube channel and our Facebook group on the Twitter profile as well. But that's the Outer Rim. Drew is one of our admins there, and we've got Gabe and James and Jeff as the other admins.
Yeah. So. It's a great group, I can attest it. And in fact, A Certain Point of View Facebook group was modeled largely after the Outer Rim. We are a lot smaller, but it was modeled in the same way, just as far as being a place where people could be honest with their opinions, but respect each other's opinions. And if you can't do that, it's not the group for you.
I still never expected us to have thousands of members. Like, that's not something like when I created it, I was like, I need a place to talk about the sequels, which I like, without being like blasted,
where you won't get death threats
over it, like constantly.
Especially the group that we came from before.
Did they call you fake fans?
I mean, there was all kinds of stupid stuff. But anyway, I just never expected it to become what it is. And so it's been a lot of fun.
It's a great group, man. And Jessica does our Instagram. Would you like to say anything about the Instagram and tell people where they can find the Instagram account?
It is, isn't it A Certain Point of View?
I don't know. I thought you should know that.
I should.
I think it is at A Certain Point of View, if I'm not mistaken. Yes. We can edit this. You can find that if you want.
Certain Point of View.
Oh, it's just at Certain Point of View on Instagram. And then for me over here, I am very involved on Twitter. I do the Twitter account over there, and that is at certain_POV pod. If you guys want to follow that, probably too active on that one.
It is. I need a third time's the charm.
Okay, I'll edit it in there.
Point of View POD.
Oh, Certain Point of View pod. At Certain Point of View pod on Instagram.
Yeah.
Sweet. Thank you, Jessica. But yeah, like I was saying, I am very active on Twitter on our Twitter account, and that is at certain_POV pod. Probably too active, if I'm being honest, but have lots of fun over there. Join our Facebook discussion group. We have a lot of fun there as well. And we also have a YouTube channel. We don't this video will be up there. We don't like produce a lot of stuff like aside from putting these raw feeds up there. But we do have a YouTube channel, and the live streams will be coming from there quite often. So go subscribe to the YouTube channel, leave us a like and all that. And please subscribe to the podcast if you have not done that already, so that we show up in your feed. Drew, Josh, Jessica, thank you so much for coming on tonight.
Thanks for
Thank
having
you.
us.
And chat, it was really fun talking to you. Thank you so much for joining us. And until next time, may the force be with you always.